Here with Patrick Wood. He's the author of Technocracy, and he exposed the trilaterals decades ago. So it's a pleasure to be with you, Patrick. Thanks very much for taking the time. Great speech. So tell me a little bit about Technocracy. What do people need to know about Technocracy?
Well, first thing they need to know is it's a movement from the 1930s. Actually, it's an incredible story. It's almost you got to say you can't make this stuff up. But scientists and engineers, very prominent ones, mostly from Columbia University, got together in 1932, and they devised this brand new economic system to replace capitalism for enterprise. They thought capitalism was dead during the Great Depression. That was only 3 years after the great stock market crash, and they thought the world was coming to an end. So they rose up and said, we need to save the world. It's almost like a movie, right? We need to save the world. And so they cooked up this economic system called Technocracy. And it was a big movement. Socially, they had over 500,000 card-carrying members across America and Canada. It was huge. It jumped into Nazi Germany, oddly enough, just about as soon as it got started here. And Technocracy was big in Germany. They had a lot of engineers and scientists who really thought that they were going to save the world, or help somebody save the world, and get the world under a different control. And so we see this stuff regurgitated now. And I contend, starting with the Trilateral Commission in 1973, we see this stuff regurgitated now from the 1930s in the form of sustainable development, green economy, smart growth. There's lots of different words that the United Nations uses for this term, right? And this is really nothing more than warmed over technocracy from the 1930s. And here's why I say that. Both were resource-driven economic models. Both were based on energy consumption and distribution, and we see the focus on energy. Everything's about energy. Everything's about keeping all the coal and the oil and the gas in the ground, right? And alternative energy that can be controlled. They want to control the energy and control everything that people use. So this is exactly what Technocracy said in the 1930s. It's the same thing, resource-driven. They want to take all the resources away from the people, put it into a global common trust, and then meter it back to the people for this generation, and they say for future generations. But it's a con. In my estimation, it's a con. And I've been watching these people since 1976. And at this point, this supposed new international economic order that the Trilateral Commission declared in 1973, this is exactly what they had in mind, the new international economic order. I look at it now, I see no mystery in it personally. Trying to convince other people to think a little bit differently, to see this picture, is difficult. There's a fifth column of actors involved here in this whole thing. We've got progressives, we got the communists, we got the socialists, the Fabian socialists, we got all these different groups. We call them the actors in society, right? Tugging at each other. There's a fifth column. And these are these crackpot scientists and engineers. Not all engineers are crackpot, for sure. But there's a minority of these people who have this God complex that they and they alone know what's best for society. And I'm sorry, they don't. They want to dismiss the politicians. They want to take away everybody's property. They just basically want to control the whole enchilada. And we see evidence of their progression. To me, it's very clear. But I see evidence of their progression. It's like I'm waving a flag. I said I'm pressing the alarm button. It's like somebody pay attention to what these people are doing, because they're not doing it for our benevolent purposes.
What do we do about this technocracy movement? What's the way to stop it, and what happens if we fail?
What we need to, in my opinion, the first thing we need to do is put up a line of defense in our own communities. The community system in our country, towns, villages, towns, cities, whatever, counties, and so on. This is like the immune system to the body. We need to build up our cities and get rid of this technocrat thinking from the planning commissions, from the school boards, from the water boards, etc., from the counties as well. This Agenda 21 stuff has trickled down into every community in America. It's amazing. They went right to the cities, they went right to the counties. They bypassed the government to get there. So now we're riddled with this stuff. National government ain't going to save us. It's nice to have somebody maybe have a little breathing room for a while, but the national government of any kind is not going to save America. It's up to the people to do it. They need to start with their own communities. Get out, learn what their people are doing with their elected officials and their city officials and other people that are appointed and stuff. Learn what they're doing and hold them accountable to it. And if they're doing things that are anti-American, they need to be stopped. Period. And you say, well, how do you get somebody fired if they're just appointed, if they're hired by the county or the city, the mayor or something? How do you get rid of them? Well, you just go get a bunch of people together and start picketing the office that they work in, and bring it to attention. Get the media involved. Make a story out of it, whatever, to expose what they're doing as anti-American, and get them fired. I mean, Americans just need to stand up and get a backbone and get off the couch, get out there and mix it up in their own communities. Second, we need to name names and take pictures. You do that, I know. You need to name names and take pictures. They have named and shamed us for decades. And we're like Mr. Nice Guy, right? Well, we don't, we want to take the high road, I don't know, whatever you call it. We want to be Mr. Nice Guy, right? That time is gone. That's a fantasy land. We need to roll up our sleeves and get tough with these people.
So you mentioned naming names. What are some of the names that we should be aware of? I know you talked about the Trilateral Commission. Who are some of the people and what are some of the organizations and institutions here?
As far as the local community is concerned, the only way you're going to find out who your people are in the community is to go out and meet them. You can look on the website and find out a few names and stuff, but you got to go to the meetings, listen to who's speaking and talking about stuff. Use your rights as a citizen to find out all the contracts, for instance, that your county has signed with anybody outside the county for the last 5 years. Who are the consultants they're paying money to come in and write these general plans? It's pretty easy to get names, but once you get them, you need to expose them. And one of the best ways that people have done this recently is to start taking cameras to every meeting you go to. And not just your iPhone or whatever, your Android, but get a little camera, like a little video camera that takes halfway decent stuff and gets decent sound. Take the cameras to these meetings and expose what these people are doing. When they talk on these in these meetings, they expect kind of a closed door session. I mean, the public may be open to the public, but they don't say, well, hey, everybody come. Well, you go in and start filming this stuff. You hear something that's really off base, take it out and put it on YouTube. And send it around to all your neighbors. Say, just take flyers to your neighbors. Say, you got to go listen to this thing, what this Yahoo said last week or yesterday, and bring them to light. This is accountability. This is transparency. So many times, if you listen carefully, you will hear outrageous things coming out of the mouths of our local people, our local people that are supposed to be serving the people, right? They've bought into this stuff that we're talking about at this conference. And, it's global warming, well, it's sustainable development. We got to do that. Oh, Earth Day's coming up. We need to have a big celebration in the city park. No, you don't. It's like, no, you don't. We're not going to spend a nickel on this. And, well, yes, we got to do it because we honor the United Nations. You shouldn't. Whatever. I mean, you film that stuff and you put it up and you let people react to it. They will react negatively, I will say, every time they hear that kind of stuff. It's just that they never went to hear it. But when they do hear it, wait a minute. They can't say that. They can't do this. We've had enough of that. We're going to go down there and tell those people what for. This is the kind of activism that's going to clean our country out of this stuff.
You talked a little bit about what technocracy is. What does the future look like try to give people kind of a picture of what the future will look like if these technocrats succeed in their dream, if we fail in stopping them?
Read 1984, read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Of course, Orwell wrote 1984. Go read those books. They're both looking at technocracy. You find out what the social implications are. Scientific dictatorship means one where you are controlled by algorithm, if you will, where the system controls you, not a person. Not like a dictator is going to say, off with their head or something. It's like once the system has its claws into you, you won't be able to move left, right, up, down, or sideways. And that's exactly what Brave New World is all about. It was control from birth to death. Everything you did had to be within the system. And if it wasn't approved material, whatever, you just didn't get to do it. That's where we're headed with this whole thing. It's scientific dictatorship. It creates it when the data is collected on all people in society. Whoever owns the data or controls the data will control all the people that it pertains to. Just that simple.
In Brave New World, there is savage reservations, right? They let some of the people who don't want to cooperate live on a reservation. But in Agenda 2030, we see that no one will be left behind. What do you think? Are they going to let us live on savage reservations?
Very astute. No, you will not be living on savage reservations. And you see this language all throughout the UN documents. Nobody gets left behind. Education, no child left behind before, under Bush, before Common Core came in. This mentality of no person left behind is a purely technical, they said that in the 1930s, everybody has to be included. So there's no option to be excluded from the system. This, for instance, is a reason that cash is being driven out of society right now. We're headed towards a cashless system. This is a Trilateral Commission policy, among others, central bank policy as well. But we're headed for a cashless society. And you say, well, why is that? Well, that's because you got 20% of humanity that operates outside of the control of the central banks and the banking system. They don't have a checking account. They use cash. You know what's going to happen? They're going to be forced into the system, whether they like it or not. You want to live? You're going to get a card. We'll issue you a card. And that's going to be how you buy and sell.
So you talked about data too, and you talked about smart meters a little bit in your presentation. Right now, people can still opt out of some of these things. We can use cash. We can have the smart meters removed from our houses. We can take our kids out of school. Do you suspect that this window of opportunity will close, and why do they let us opt out right now?
The opt-out is the only way to control the uprising, if you will, the people that are upset about it. And most of the people that are opting out are opting out because of the radiation that they get off the meters, the Wi-Fi. It's not the smart meter itself. It's really the Wi-Fi radiation that comes off of it. That some people they get sick, when they get around that kind of stuff. Some houses have caught fire. There's all kinds of reasons people want to get out of it. But the real thing behind smart grid in general and the smart meters that are implementing it is to control the people, the energy in the home. They want to be able to see all the different things you have in your house and how you're using them and how you're operating them. There was a law passed in 2010, by the way. This is right on the heels of smart grid funding in 2009 that required the major manufacturers like GE, major appliances and stuff, to put in a controller chip that would speak to the smart meter. If you've bought anything since 2010, you may not know this, but if you go inspect a little bit, you'll find out that your appliances are equipped with this new technology. This new card has been put in that it communicates, pings back and forth with your smart meter. So your thermostat, for instance, in your house could be controlled through your smart meter without your knowledge. Now, that doesn't mean they're doing it today, but the potential is there, and there's no question one day they'll do it. They're already doing this in Europe. So it's coming here, yes, sooner or later. It's about control.
Yeah, actually the power company in Florida, they sent out letters saying, hey, do you mind if we shut down some of your appliances during high usage time? And so that's on the way, you're right. So what else do people need to know about Technocracy, and where do people get your book?
Well, they can get the book at Amazon. Of course, they can get a Kindle version and a hard copy version, and they can also get it on my website, technocracy.news. I love to send out an autographed copy to anybody that buys from me. I don't really make any more money that way, but if you buy it from me, I'll send you an autographed copy. And you get on the mailing list there to see the stories and stuff that I'm posting on technocracy.news, curated from around the world on what's near and dear to technocracy.
Excellent. Yeah, I highly recommend the newsletter. It's really good stuff. I get it in my inbox every day. And thank you very much, Mr. Wood. We appreciate your time.